like to talk a little bit about how to fail well from an acceptance and commitment point of view. Well, let's say I try something and I stick my neck out, I put myself out in the world, and I have some well or not so well defined goals in mind. Doesn't matter. Let's say they're really well defined. They're SMART goals, they're specific, measurable, achievable, I think, realistic, and time-bound. And I fail. Do not achieve those goals. Don't even come close. In fact, I dig myself into a hole in some capacity, whether I overinvest time or energy or money or all of the above, and I find that the major endeavor was, by most reasonable people's estimation, a failure. Okay, so I failed, so I'm probably not feeling so great about it. I probably have a lot of unpleasant thoughts and feelings. So those who have been following and watching these videos probably have some idea of what might come next from an acceptance and commitment perspective. I have a lot of unpleasant thoughts and feelings. What do we do when we have a lot of unpleasant thoughts and feelings? What's our natural reaction? Try not to have them. So, my first reaction is almost certain to be in the service of escaping from those unpleasant thoughts and feelings. Whether it's something fairly innocuous, like trying to talk myself out of feeling bad. Oh, gee, well, it's not so bad. I can start again, or I can try something else. Or whether it's a good deal less skillful, like, well, going on a drinking bender or something like that, let's say. Well, so I have my reaction. Skillful or unskillful, costly or not so costly. And then I have a space where I can make some decisions. The reaction, I don't know how much decision was involved in that. We naturally respond to pain by trying to avoid it. So I'll have some kind of avoidance reaction maneuver, whether it's momentary or it goes on for days or weeks. And then when the dust settles to some degree, then I have some choices to make. And those of you familiar with acceptance and commitment processes, the left side of the traditional hexagon diagram is all about diffusion, separating from thoughts, distancing oneself from thoughts, willingness, making room for uncomfortable sensations and feelings, emotions, and so forth. And then the right side of the hexagon is about, well, how do I take action? Well, what do I want my life to be about? Values and committing my action to those values. So, in a sense, my initial reaction to failure calls up the skill set on the left side of the hexaflex, which I wonder how that works. Is that on your left or is that on my, this is my right, it's your left. Anyway, the left side of the hexaflex, the skills that we use, the mindfulness skills of how to respond skillfully to one's automatic reactions to things that just come with being a human being. So I might notice what thoughts I have about the failure experience. First of all, that I'm calling it a failure is a thought. That it is objectively a failure is also a thought. That it means X, Y, and Z about me are also thoughts. That it means I'm going to face thus and so an unpleasant experience in the future is also a thought, and so forth. And making room for some of the discomfort in the service of being able to then go on to take action based on my values. So having responded skillfully, hopefully, to some degree, by making room for the discomfort and distancing from the thoughts, identifying what the uncomfortable thoughts are and getting a little distance from them, not believing in them quite so ardently, maybe not taking them quite so seriously, holding them lightly, however you want to put it. Once again, then I have that space of choice where, okay, now what do I want to do with that? Let's call it a failure. I'm gonna accept this idea that I'm clear is just an idea, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. Yeah, it's a failure. And now what? Now what do we do next? Why did we want to do what we tried to do in the first place? And can we meet that value? Can we touch that value? I almost said meet that need, but that might imply that we're backed into a corner or something like that. It's a choice, it's a value. So how can we make contact with that value, and how can we live that value if this particular goal, this instantiation of the value, this instance of the value, is not going to work out, at least not for now? So plan B. This is very difficult because plan B involves precisely that first part of making room for all the pain of plan A having not panned out. And that's why some people get stuck right there, and I've gotten stuck right there before. There's nothing unusual about that. We all do it. It's so painful to go from plan A to plan B that we don't want to engage with that. It'd be, our minds tell us, less painful to just stay where we are, kind of frozen in a state of avoidance or numb out in some way. And at the very same time, we have an option, which is plan B. Whatever that might be, whatever form that might take, the other option is another way or another set of ways to manifest the same values. So let's work through an example. Let's say I don't know, I start a cupcake store. I just went to a very successful cupcake store and got a nice cup of coffee. But let's say you started a cupcake store, and some of the underlying values, whether you were aware of that or not, were I want to find a good way of providing livelihood for my family, of supporting my family, providing the cash that they need to do all the good things that they do. And I wanted an interesting challenge, and I wanted to interface with people and learn something about business management. And I invest this money, and I take these business courses, and I seek out some investment from others, probably just family members chipping in a few thousand here and there to get set up with this store, or maybe a big old bank loan. And then I pause the video because I should probably answer this call. Darn it.